For many years, STEMCO has been the commercial vehicle training leader and has put training and safety at the forefront of all we do. In keeping with our history of providing quality hands-on training, we have developed a video series to help safety-minded organizations maintain their vehicles and reduce their cost per mile. Proper inspection, failure analysis, and proper installation will keep your fleet operating inside a strong margin of safety. STEMCO is committed to keeping the roadways safe. We do this not only by engineering premium wheel-end components, but also by supporting your decision to run the safest fleet on the road. When it's time to replace a wheel seal, proper installation cannot be overlooked. The proper seal installation procedure involves 4 basic steps: tear down, inspection and cleanup, seal installation, bearing adjustment dial indicating, and proper lubrication. By following these steps, you help ensure safety and a longer service interval for your vehicle. To begin, inspect the wheel assembly for any signs of lubrication leaking from the hub or hubcap. Once the components are removed and inspected, we will begin the cleaning process. After removing the hubcap, check the hubcap window for any cracks or discoloration. These signs would suggest the hubcap should be replaced. The red rubber plug should also be inspected to make certain that the vent hole in the center of the plug is clear. Any discoloration or hardening would suggest replacement of the red plug. If you are using the Pro Torq spindle nut, remove the orange keeper. If the bearings were properly adjusted when the wheel end was last assembled, the axle nut should be easily removed. It is recommended that the orange keeper be replaced at every brake job. Inspect the nut for any damage. If your wheel end has the double nut setup, remove all 3 pieces and inspect each for signs of chisel marks or burrs. These can present problems with bearing adjustment during reassembly and should be cleaned up. Check for wear on the back side of the nut. It is also important to lay each piece on a flat surface to check for flatness. Star washers that have been used numerous times should be replaced. Carefully remove the outer bearing and then remove the hub and inner bearing assembly. Using a crowfoot bar, remove the seal from the hub as well as the inner bearing. Never remove the seal by hammering against the back of the bearing. The bearings can now be carefully inspected for any signs of wear or discoloration. Any signs of discoloring are an indication that the bearings were exposed to excessive heat and should be replaced. Other signs to look for are pitting, stains from water, and bent cages. Any bearings that look questionable should be replaced. Always replace the bearing and race as a set. The spindle should now be inspected carefully for any burrs that might damage the new seal. Use a file and 320 grit emery cloth to repair these areas. Also check the threads and clean them thoroughly with a wire brush. Any debris left in the threads will be displaced by the nut on installation and contaminate the oil. The hub should also be inspected to make certain there are no burrs in the seal bore that can damage the OD of the new seal. To repair these burrs, a small ball-peen hammer and emery cloth may be used to clean them up. The thorough cleaning of all reused parts will prevent contamination from re-entering the wheel end. The bearings must be cleaned well to remove any grit or contamination from the rollers. Once again, inspect the bearings as they are washed for any signs of wear or damage. Never spin the bearings with shop air to dry them. Once the parts are cleaned and dried, they should be covered. Never use water for cleaning components to prevent the introduction of rust. Clean the hubcap, making sure to clean off all the old gasket and sealant. Use only soap and water, as solvents can discolor the glass windows. Dry the hubcap and cover it. The Pro Torq nut should also be washed, making sure the threads are completely clean and free of any contaminants. Dry the axle nut and cover it. Lastly, the hub should be cleaned, paying close attention to the bearing races for any damage, and also to make certain the races are tight in the cup bore. Never spike loose races in a hub. This is an indication that the hub is worn and should be replaced. Hubs should not be steam cleaned, as this forces water into areas that will eventually lead to rust. Dry the hub and prepare to start the installation process. Before we begin the installation process, there are a few key items that we should note. Proper installation instructions are included with every STEMCO seal, and the proper tools are noted on the box. Never use a competitive tool to install the seal. It will damage the seal and/or ring. Most premature seal failures can be attributed to poor installation. Contamination left in the wheel end contributes to premature failures. Excessive end play will result in a shortened life for not only the seal but also other wheel end components. Acceptable end play is 1 to 5 thousandths per TMC's recommended bearing adjustment procedure. To begin installation of the standard grit guard seal, you will need to first identify the proper seal and axle installation tools. To prevent carrying any contaminants back into the wheel end, never stand the tools on their face. Apply a thin coat of No. 2 sealant to the OD of the spindle shoulder. Place the axle ring on the shoulder. Using the recommended STEMCO Universal Axle tool, drive the seal assembly on until the tool bottoms out against the spindle shoulder. Make sure the ring is flush with the shoulder. Wipe away any excess sealant. With the hub in the horizontal position, pre-lube the inner bearing and place it into the bearing cup. If using grease, pre-pack the bearing before placement in the hub. Apply a thin layer of No. 2 sealant to the OD of the seal and position the seal in the hub. Using the recommended STEMCO Universal Hub tool and bearing guide, hold the tool in a vertical position. Drive the seal into the seal bore until it is bottomed out. Check to make sure there is clearance between the seal and the bearing cone. Pre-lube the clean spindle with hub lubricant to ease installation. Now the hub is ready to be placed on the spindle. With the spindle nut close at hand, carefully guide the hub over the spindle, being careful not to drag the seal lip across the threads. You may now add oil to the hub cavity and place the pre-lubed outer bearing into the bearing cup bore, securing the hub in place with the Pro Torq nut. If grease is being used, fill the hub cavity to the 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock positions with grease before installing the pre-packed bearing in the hub. Bearing adjustment is likely to be the most frequently incorrect step in wheel-end installations, resulting in decreased life expectancy of components and possibly lead to a potential wheel-off situation. The STEMCO-Pro Torq axle spindle nut provides a robust solution that consistently delivers accurate wheel-end play in the range of 1 to 3 thousandths. Using a torque wrench, tighten the Pro Torq nut to 200 foot-pounds. Spin the wheel at least 1 full rotation and repeat this step 3 times. Back the nut off until it is loose. Using a torque wrench, tighten the nut to 100 foot-pounds. Spin the wheel at least 1 full rotation and repeat this step 3 times. Back the nut off one raised face mark. For more questions about this procedure, please see the Pro Torq installation instructions or view www.stemco.com. Insert the keeper tab into the undercut groove of the nut and engage the keyway tang in the axle keyway with the orange side facing out. Engage the mating teeth, compress and insert the keeper arms one at a time into the undercut groove with a screwdriver. For steer axles, the tang may be replaced by a D-flat, which will mate with the milled flat on the spindle. Failure to follow this instruction could result in a wheel-off condition and cause bodily injury. Using a magnetic base, mount the dial indicator on the spindle end, making sure the hub face is clean and free of gasket material. Adjust the arm of the dial indicator, setting the plunger tip of the indicator on the machined face of the hub at the 12 o'clock position. The plunger should be set up so that it is parallel to the axle of the spindle. When positioning the indicator tip, ensure that the indicator has adequate range of travel for proper measurement. Set the indicator to 0. Grasp the wheel hub assembly at the 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock positions. Pull the wheel end assembly outward while oscillating the wheel approximately 45 degrees. While continuing to pull, stop oscillating and read the indicator. Push the wheel assembly inward while oscillating. While continuing to push, stop oscillating and read the indicator. Read the end play as total movement. Acceptable end play is 1 to 5 thousandths as measured with a dial indicator as per TMC's recommended bearing adjustment procedure. It is a good practice to record the final end play on the work order. Using a new gasket, install the hubcap and torque the bolts in the normal star pattern. The most popular hubcaps, such as the 4009 and 4195, using a 5/16 bolt, are torqued to 12 to 16 foot-pounds. Other applications are listed in the STEMCO catalog or website. As we button up the wheel end, we look at the use of oil and grease. Today, oil is the most frequently used lubrication in wheel ends. In any of the seal applications that a fleet may use, the hub reservoir is often partially filled just before the outer bearing is put in place. This reduces the amount of oil that has to seep through the outer bearing to fill the reservoir and bring the oil to its proper level. The same may be done with semi-fluid grease, using a template to hold the grease in place. For axles using a STEMCO hubcap, bring the oil up to the level between the full and add marks on the window. For grease applications, add a small amount of semi-fluid grease in the corner of the hubcap between the edge of the flange and the vent mechanism. Do not cover the vent mechanism. On drive axles, jack up the opposite side of the axle 8 to 10 inches to fill the hub cavity. The differential should be checked for proper level and the axle vent plug should be checked to make certain that it is clear. Following these simple steps builds consistency in wheel end installations, ensures greater safety on our roadways, prevents premature failure, and lowers cost.